Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to members, officers, the press and public joining the Local Development Committee tonight. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so welcome to everyone on YouTube. Some of our officers are joining this evening's meeting via Zoom. Can everyone present hear me in the room and online? Nods, smiles, thumbs up. That's great. Thank you very much. My name is Councillor James Beckles, and will be chairing this meeting tonight of the Local Development Committee. For the members in the room, when you are speaking, can you please speak clearly and loudly so the microphone can pick you up? For those joining by Zoom, please mute your microphone if you are not speaking. I will now ask members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. So starting on my left.
Councillor Saeed Basha, Little Ilford Ward.
Councillor Salim Patel, Manor Park.
Councillor Imam Haq, East Ham Ward.
Councillor Femi Falola, East Ham Central.
Councillor Sabi Kamali, Stratford Ward.
To my right, officers.
Louis Moore, Development Manager.
Joe Arnott, Senior Planner.
Betty Loan, Senior Planner.
The Principal Planner.
Thank you.
And online. Would you introduce yourself online?
Olusola Olukoshi, Legal Advisor.
Rosie Day Bottins, Social Care Commissioning Service Manager.
Sophia Khan, Project Manager.
And Nigel, one of the, okay. Thank you very much. And are there any apologies? Got item 1. Any apologies to note?
Mujibu.
Councillor Siba Rahman.
And I think Councillor Noor.
Oh, yeah. Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. And shall we move now to item 2, which is the minutes of the last meeting that was held on 6th of October. And that is on pages 13 to 16. Do shout out if there are any omissions, corrections, updates. Page 13. 14 and 15. Any additions? Are we all happy? Can we say agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest for tonight's item? Would you like to declare? Are there any interest?
No, that's all.
None. Thank you very much.
Actually, the first paper, I live in the same ward, does that?
And we can note that.
Yeah.
In the same ward, okay? Item 4, members are asked to note the advice from the head of legal services on determining planning applications. Members are asked if they received and considered the update report that was circulated earlier today. Is that noted?
Noted.
Thank you very much. Announcement from the chair, requests to address the committee. The committee has received the following requests tonight to address us. Would the speakers please identify themselves when I call out your name? So item 6, I've got Mifta Ahmed. Item 6. Item 7, there's no speaker. Item 8, no speaker. Item 9, the Cardamom Court, Matthew Wyatt. Thank you. And you've got Nid Hodgkinson. Thank you very much. Item 10, we have one speaker, and that is Nigel Young. I believe you are online, Nigel.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The usual practice is to allow up to 5 minutes in total for both supporters and objectors. Is that agreed? So can we agree the remainder of the order of the business as outlined in the agenda?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And please note the full planning application and assessments of the matters is covered comprehensively in the committee report. I trust that members have had full regard to the committee report tonight. The officer presentation will be a summary of the key issues only. Now can I ask the planning officer to present the application? And that's for item 6, 269 High Street South.
Fine.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm presenting item 6 at 2869 High Street South. The application has been submitted by Cityscape Planning, Transport and Architecture. This item is a Section 73 application related to a previous planning permission to convert the ground floor level of the property. The application site is a mid-terrace ground floor educational institute and a community centre unit. The site is located outside of a designated town centre, local centre or community facilities opportunity area and is surrounded by 2-storey terrace buildings with ground floor commercial uses with predominantly residential dwellings above. The application has been made to vary condition 4 of the June 2019 permission. It is proposed to extend the hours of operation from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. from Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday and bank holidays to 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Sunday holidays. The application was previously presented to the Local Development Committee on the 6th of October 2025 with an officer recommendation for refusal. However, members directed officers to defer the decision and for it to be returned to the next available committee meeting to allow the applicant and officers to work together to overcome the refusal reasons and work towards a recommendation for approval. Since the previous committee meeting, officers have met with the applicant and an operational management plan has been submitted in response to the concerns raised, particularly with regards to noise and disruption of adjacent and nearby residential occupants. So the following are the key considerations of the current application. They are the principle of development, impacts the neighbouring amenity and sustainable transport. So with regards to the principle of development, planning permission was granted for the change of use from a restaurant to a community centre. The principle of development was established under the original application and remains unchanged in this application. With regards to neighbouring amenity, this application was initially recommended for refusal by officers due to the lack of information regarding the extended operating hours and the potential for unacceptable levels of noise disruption, particularly in the early morning hours. Following the deferral of the application at the October committee meeting, the applicant has submitted an operational management plan, which provides further clarification regarding the use of the facility during the extended operating hours, as well as methods to limit impacts on surrounding residents. The operational management plan confirms that 6 to 10 employees and volunteers of the existing facility would be carrying out the preparation work and deliveries from 4 a.m. onwards. Deliveries would be made with personal vehicles rather than by a third-party company and would be limited to 1 per day with quick unloading of approximately 5 minutes. It is also confirmed that the facility would not be open to the public before 6 a.m. and only staff members and volunteers involved in the preparation present during the early morning hours of 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Morning sessions from 6 a.m. onwards would not use any loud noise generating equipment and would not include amplified music. Overall, it is considered that the additional information provided by the operational management plan has addressed the concerns raised previously, and the application is now considered acceptable in terms of neighbour amenity impacts. With regards to sustainable transport, the proposal would have similar transport implications compared to the current arrangements, as confirmed by the operational management plan. As such, any impacts in this respect would be minimal. The proposal would therefore be considered acceptable in regard to sustainable transport. Therefore, the Local Development Committee is asked to resolve to grant planning permission for the reasons set out on page 18 of the committee report. Thank you.
And the report. Thank you very much. Members, we discussed this quite extensively at our last meeting. Do we have any further questions to cover?
I just had one quick question for the officer. I mean, what were the reason for it not to be accepted earlier and what measures has been taken? Because by looking at it and from what you have presented, this should have been accepted in the last meeting, and I just don't understand why there is no valid reason for it to be delayed.
Well, as we outlined at the previous committee meeting, the application as it was originally submitted, it expressed the extended operating hours, but it didn't include an operational management plan, which had been included with the previous applications at this site. So there wasn't a full understanding of what was happening in those early morning hours. And so because it's a predominantly residential area, it's outside of a town or local centre, there's a lot of residents in the surrounding area. There were significant concerns around the potential noise impacts on those surrounding residents. And that formed like the main basis for the reason, or the officer objections previously. So since we had the last committee meeting, we met with the applicants and we discussed what the shortcomings were. And an operational management plan has been submitted, which is consistent with the operational management plans that was previously approved, but then it also accounts for the extended operating hours. So we can be satisfied that from the operational hours between 4 to 7, which was what they're extending it from at present, we could be satisfied that there wouldn't be significant noise disruption in terms of when, what exactly is occurring at that time, and delivery and servicing in that time is kind of to a standard that we consider to be acceptable and not overly noisy or overbearing to the surrounding residential occupiers.
Okay, so just to follow up, from my understanding, obviously I live in the area and I know all the reasons were given, and I just think officers could have accepted it in the last meeting instead of prolonging the whole situation. I mean, just going forward, if we can kind of mitigate these circumstances before, because I mean, I did look into it and I just think it's just kind of wasting everyone's time, if that's okay.
I'll bring in Louis.
Yeah, can I just highlight, we went, obviously I watched back the last committee meeting. I wasn't here, but I watched it back. And from what I can tell, constitutionally, whether we like that or not, there is not an ability to overturn a decision. There's only ability to defer it, which I know there's a lot of discussion about. So it could only be deferred at that point. We had quite valid concerns that we didn't know what was going on between 4 and 7. So, for example, it could be open from 4, and for all we knew, because there's no planning restriction, the applicant can tell us that there's not going to be anything going on at that time. But unless we have a documentation we can restrict it with and then enforce against if there was ever an issue, we're unable to ensure that actually it's only a few deliveries at that time, unless we have documentation that says that and can be part of the approved plans. At that point, that document didn't exist at the last committee meeting. We were of the opinion that that wasn't forthcoming, and therefore we were looking to refuse it. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion, completely understand everybody's understanding it, to want to move it forward, which is why we've kind of gone away to then get that information, so that now that is part of the conditions. So, we are now satisfied that it's, I can't remember what it is, 1 or 2 deliveries will be happening a couple of times a week. That's all that's happening between those hours. Children won't be coming into a later point in the morning, so therefore disruption's gone. And that's now an approved document as part of our recommended conditions, which means if that didn't happen, we would be able to say, well, this is what you've approved, this is what we've all agreed, this is in writing, and therefore we can enforce if there was ever an issue. If we don't do that sort of thing, unfortunately, we then have no control as a council. And also, don't forget that planning permission falls with the building, not with the owner. So if we were to approve it without any time restrictions or any kind of condition on it, then somebody else could go in and be a lot more noisy between those hours than this current use. So it's to safeguard all of us, to make sure that what we're approving is specific for that use and will ensure that there's not enough disruption, there's not too much disruption. We couldn't make that conclusion at the last committee, and that document didn't exist, so we couldn't tie that into the decision. Now we can do that. I appreciate that, it being beneficial if we were at that point in the last committee meeting and we had all those documentation already, and we can obviously take that away and think about, is there times where we can try and push slightly further to an approval? Even if we aren't as forthcoming as we'd hope, maybe we can try and push that. So definitely we'll take that on board, but particularly and procedurally, there was no other way to get around this, to get to this stage, really.
Cool, thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Comments, Chair. Thank you very much. Well, I agree with my colleague, Councillor Sabia. We were all here. Thank you. It was a very long debate regarding this particular application. It was the only application on that day. But at least now we are happy that we have seen the positive outcome of this. I would like to thank the officer for that as well. In future, the community application, which benefiting the local community, and purely this application is benefiting, especially the vulnerable young people, vulnerable women in the society. That's very important at the moment. shouldn't be prolonged first meeting to the second meeting anyway, but in the end, we have achieved a positive outcome of this. I would like to thank the officer and thanks the applicant for doing this excellent community work, benefit all the community in the local area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And
Be 30 seconds.
I'm just keeping it just to members and the committee at the
I
moment.
just wanted to thank the councillors that were, just be 30 seconds. I just want to say thank you to the councillors and previously, you guys, all the councillors that were here previously, that really, stood up and fought for the community centre. I mean, it was a very long debate. I thank the chair for allowing, all of us to thank the officers as well, because they give us some very good recommendations which help us. So I think, as the councillors that were here previously, that in this committee, we're sorry for, prolonging our debate, but I really want to thank all the councillors that were here previously on that day and also the officers as well, who did read some very good recommendations and in terms of how we should move forward in the operational matter, that gave us good guidance. And thank you so much. And as I said, the community centre is open for all councillors, officers, member of public. Thank you so much. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
It's fine. It was clearly summed up, but to officers, to members and also to applicants, it's good that we can all come to a decision that we're all happy with. And hopefully next time, if something does come to the committee's view, that we can all work together, but also that applicants as well can submit information so they can be analysed and it can be reviewed by the committee so we can make, decisions in a timely way. But to officers, thank you for your diligence. Applicants, thank you for working with it. To the committee, your diligence is always on this decision is always useful. So let's move now to the recommendations. So the Local Development Committee is asked to resolve: 1, agree the reasons for approval as set out on page 18 of the committee report, and 2, granting planning permission based on the conditions listed on pages 34 of the report. All those who are in agreement, please show of hands. That is unanimous, so that is now approved. Thank you very much. Now move to item 7. Which is 11B, South Crescent, Canning Town. Would officers like to present?
Thanks. Thanks for working on one. Okay. So thank you. Item 7 of the Local Development Committee agenda relates to application for planning permission reference 25/01663/4 at 11B South Crescent, Canning Town. So the site location, the application site is 5,100 square metres and is a former storage site. Located with an employment hub and strategic industrial location. But it's in various forms of public transport, including Bromley by Bow Station, 300 metres northwest, as well as bus stops on Manor Road, adjacent to Star Lane, east of the site. The existing development includes a small industrial storage unit, which is in poor condition. Previously, 2 buildings existed on site. However, the building adjacent to South Crescent has been demolished. The applicant has confirmed that there are no existing employees on site and the property is currently a vacant hard stand area, as can be seen in the photos. Within the immediate context, there are large-scale employment and industrial developments such as West Ham National Grid substation, southeast and the Segro Industrial Park to the east.
In terms of access, South Crescent is connected to Cody Road to the north, which links to the A12 approximately 500 metres west of the site. The proposed development is for the demolition of all buildings and structures on site and the construction of a building for flexible B2 general industrial, B8 storage and distribution, and light industrial uses for ancillary with ancillary office, associated service yard, access point, car parking, and landscape planting. The proposal will provide 4,056 square metres of flexible employment space with an open plan ground floor area and ancillary office at the first floor with toilet facilities. The above image demonstrates the proposed block plan and site layout. Vehicle access will be via South Crescent at the existing entry point in the southwest corner. The northern entry point will be removed. This will allow for public realm improvement and landscaping within the site, as well as upgraded boundary treatments. Service yard and proposed car and cycle parking is located adjacent to the site entrance to the south. There is also the provision of 3 dock levelers and 2 level access doors for the use of HGVs. The above plan shows the ground floor facilities and loading docks for HGVs and the first floor where the office space and mezzanine is located. The elevations on screen show the proposed building, which has a low-pitched double-hipped roof over the warehouse area. This steps down to the office area for the proposed height is 13.3 metres and 10.5 metres at first floor. The principle of development. The London plan identifies the site as being within a strategic industrial location and strongly encourages intensification of these uses. The proposed development contributes towards the local plan objectives, providing industrial uses, supporting increased employment capacity at this vacant site. The proposal would provide 4,056 square metres of flexible floor space, which represents 1,050 increase and would contribute towards the borough's overall aims to provide 335,000 square metres of industrial floor space. The applicant has committed to substantial employment contributions, including a commitment to promoting 35% local labour through the construction phase and 50% local labour through the end user phase. Contributions have also been secured to assist Newham Council in this process. The principle of development is therefore supported. In regards to urban design and placemaking, the proposal would enhance the appearance of this site and improve accessibility. The overall height of 13 metres is broadly consistent with neighbouring developments, which vary between 6 metres and 20 metres. The development and design focal point is towards South Crescent, which would suitably activate and improve this street frontage. The inclusion of horizontal windows and variety of materials on the principal facade, including timber cladding, enhances the architectural quality and improves variation and provides variation in the built form. The proposal will create a legible and safe entry point through soft and hard landscaping and the proposed location of ancillary services. A condition has been recommended to ensure high quality material and landscape design. The scheme is therefore supported in regards to urban design. In terms of impacts on neighbouring amenity, the site is located in an industrial setting surrounded by warehouses and industrial services. The closest residential properties are located approximately 350 metres west of the site. Given this separation, the proposed development is not anticipated to generate any significant neighbouring amenity impacts. It is also noted that most vehicles would be accessing the nearby highway network rather than using residential streets. A noise impact assessment was submitted, which concluded the combined rating level of plant noise, breakout noise, and delivery noise does not exceed the background noise levels during the daytime and nighttime periods. This assessment also concluded that there would be no discernible increase in road traffic noise. Therefore, the proposal is supported in relation to neighbouring amenities, subject to compliance with the recommended conditions. Moving on to sustainable transport. The proposed development includes provision of 6 operational car parking spaces, including 1 accessible space. These spaces are fitted with EV charge points with a further 2 EV charge loading docks. 8 cycle spaces are to be provided and 1 cargo bike space. Proposal provides 6 dock levelers and 2 level access doors for the use of HGVs. Additional space is on site for HGVs to park if these spaces are all occupied. The sweat pass analysis demonstrates vehicles can enter and exit in a forward direction. The trip generation assessment shows the proposal will reduce vehicle movements when compared to the previous approved use on site, and no objection has been by TfL or LBN transportation subject to conditions, which this includes a delivery and servicing management plan for the future occupier. The applicant has also agreed to pay a contribution for the Cody Road Cycleway and Public Realm Scheme of £25,000. In terms of other considerations, waste management, a storage area of 8 square metres will be provided with 6 bins and collected once each week. Proposal would also reduce CO2 emissions by 11 tonnes per year, equal to 170% savings. In terms of B&G, the assessment found that the proposal would result in a gain of 16.83% in habitat units and 20 metro units. Conditions have also been attached in relation to drainage and contamination, as well as the employment contributions commitment. So as on screen, the local development committee is asked to resolve to agree to the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report, and then delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to the completion of a Section 106 agreement based on the heads of terms at Appendix 11 and the conditions at Appendix 10. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Chair, I'm going to ask the first few questions. One is on page 71, I think 11, about photovoltaic solar panels, and there has to be a glint and glare assessment on the panels. Do we need a glint and glare assessment on these panels as it is an industrial area, which is on the back road?
Yeah, so it's more related to potential interference with London City Airport. So that specifically comes from them after their consultation. And they request that generally with most applications within sort of their radius that they assess and where there could be potential impact, but subject to the condition and complying with that, they would then assess that and hopefully be satisfied.
Okay, and are the applicants planning to have solar panels attached to the site once the glint and glare assessment has been done? Do we know? Or?
Yes. Okay. So that's part of the approved plans.
Right. The contribution, 25,000 towards the cycle scheme.
Yes, so public domain and cycle scheme.
Yeah, is that a maximum figure or is that negotiated?
So that's been agreed between council officers and the applicant, and that would form part of the Section 106 agreement following this, in which the terms would be set out. But yes, that figure's been agreed.
Okay. And was that a maximum figure or was that a negotiated sum? Trying to get an idea about the maximums that we could ask. Minimums.
We just to jump in on that. So effectively, other schemes around that area have also been requested to contribute towards it, based on the scale and context of what's been asked at other sites, which were larger. For example, we've taken a proportionate approach of what this can contribute based on what other sites have contributed, which would, let's say, are twice as large or twice as large in scale, might pay twice as much effectively. Yeah. So highways effectively set kind of what they expected from sites to start with, and then we'll kind of take a proportionate approach since then on subsequent schemes.
Okay. Just for the minutes and also for those on YouTube, we've been joined by Councillor Mahmood Mirza, who's part of the LDC committee. Unfortunately, you won't be able to vote on this item, so we have started.
Fine, no problem, sir.
You can ask questions if you. And on the about there would be no discernible increase in traffic. Do you monitor that over applicants? If the application is approved, are we going to monitor that to see if there's any ongoing traffic increase?
Well, that's based off the traffic assessment that was undertaken and reviewed by TfL and our own transportation team. That was based off previous uses on the site, vehicle depots. So comparing those previous uses to what's proposed. That's how that conclusion was reached.
Yep.
As outlined in the presentation, there will be a delivery and servicing management plan condition for that future occupier. So things like that provide ways of us to monitor what's coming in and out of the site, but traffic assessments and trip generations is sort of done at the assessment stage.
Okay.
And that's how that conclusion was reached.
And will TfL be monitoring that site ongoing?
So it'd be more up to our team. They did also, so both TfL and our transport team requested deliveries and servicing management plan. So as part of the discharge of that condition, we'd probably refer it to TfL, and then also our transport team.
Okay. And on page 39, just had it's more of a question of clarity, really. It's on section 50, well, page 39, 15A, calculated the total 50% of end user times 3,163. Is that how much contribution the end user will pay towards skills and employment?
Yes, yeah.
Per person?
So that's it'd be that 3,000.
Yeah.
There's an exact sort of method as to how it works out, but yes, it's sort of a breakdown of potential end user jobs based on the end use.
In some instances, you might see that there's a fixed figure that's shown. Because we're kind of looking at flexible uses, we want to make sure that it's as flexible as possible for them to be higher. The way the calculation works with our new and works team is based on that number, and you base it on roughly how many jobs would be there based on if it's an office, it's kind of more densely employed in terms of number of people there comparative to some other uses where like warehouse for so yes, their heads of terms would effectively ensure that there is that contribution is met per job, and what that would look like will kind of depend on what the end user is, and they have to provide that detail to us for us to then recoup that fund.
Thank you very much. Councillor Huck.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions through you, please. So one, under principle of development, mentioned the creation of employment, which is great. But do you have any thinking that some employments would be featured in this application, maybe more towards plan if they have?
Yeah, so they originally provided an employment strategy as part of the economic strategy, and this forecasts around 75 to 110 employees on site in the future. But again, given its sort of flexible use, that's why there is that range. And yeah, so 75 to 110 potential.
And second question, if that's okay. Yeah, on it's appendix 3, page number 57. It's great that so many stakeholders has been consulted, and I completely understand that it's an industrial area. However, I cannot see, and please correct me, that surrounding areas, residents were part of the consultation process.
Yes, so you would have seen, I can't remember the exact figure, but sort of the surrounding radius, I think the
51 properties were consulted, and we also did a site notice and a press advert in the New Reporter.
And there are no comments or
no comments.
As we said in the presentation, it is broadly an industrial area, so residents are far removed from the site.
Yeah, just on the other side, obviously you have residents. Obviously, this side you have Stalin, TLR stations, and that industrial areas there. Many times we see is that residents are not being consulted, which you have done in this case. Obviously, that's what my question was. It's great, but again, even if it's industrial area, there are always residents or local neighborhood who have something to say as a comment, as an objections, and that can be considered into those kinds of applications. So that's great. So at least those residents are not feeling left out. But in this case, you have done. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Councillor Kamali.
Just two questions. We probably mentioned it, but just clarity purposes. What impact assessment has been completing regarding traffic noise and environmental effect resulting of this demolition?
So the traffic and transport assessment has been carried out. The noise assessment has been carried out. Air quality assessments have been carried out. There is actually quite a long list. I can't remember them all, but substantial sort of assessment reports were provided, given it's also a major development. The requirements more stringent. So yes, a number of reports were presented. For example, air quality it came to a conclusion that it'd be air quality neutral. Energy saving reports were also prepared. I think I said in the slides, so there would be 117% savings in terms of sustainable development. The biodiversity increase on the site as well in terms of planting of trees and improving sort of that public realm. Drainage and flood risk studies were also done, demonstrate and conditions are attached to that. Contamination reports as well to investigate sort of the ground conditions on the site. So that all formed part of the assessment and the preparation of documentation.
Bearing all that in mind, will this proposal, will this not affect adversely any neighbourhood area, like bearing everything in mind? Obviously, I did look at it and there is lots of different assessment that has been done, but considering it's also residential, would this have an adverse impact on?
I wouldn't say it's residential. As we said, the nearest residence sort of 350 metres to the west. It's predominantly an industrial location in a strategic industrial location and employment hub. So the main priority is employment and industrial uses.
Just on that, on the strategic industrial land, so that is mandated by the Mayor of London, that certain parts of London are strategic industrial land. So effectively it is almost unacceptable to have any industrial there unless there's certain things you can kind of mix with industrial. But the predominant push is that these are industrial sites where we do maximise industrial, because we're losing so much industrial across London that aren't in these sites because they're being turned into flats and things like that, and we're losing kind of other commercial spaces. So this is kind of exactly where we should be putting these kind of denser things, given they are set back from residential. And with all the kind of assessments as well, we're comfortable with consulting TfL, Environmental Health, and our own service that this is probably the best place we could find in the borough to put this sort of thing, to be quite honest. And in terms of monitoring as well, I know you touched on it earlier, but also there will be travel plan monitoring. So that's from a traffic point of view, but that will make sure that we're not, that they aren't, that will include objectives like making sure that, 90% of people are taking sustainable transport modes to work, for example, walking, cycling, and tube, not driving, not more cars around that part of the borough. And there's a contribution for us to actually monitor that. So we are getting paid by them to monitor that. And they provide kind of yearly monitoring reports, and we can also check on that as well and ask for additional information if we feel that actually they're not meeting their kind of like transport objectives. And there's too many people driving that we think shouldn't be to the site. So there definitely is still some controls as well, but principally this is kind of where we're directed by the Mayor of London to put this sort of thing. So hence our acceptance of it in this location.
So it's a TfL road, not a council road.
It is
council road, but sort of TfL were consulted based on it being a major application and the potential increase in sort of vehicle movements, but given the transport assessment sort of based on the previous use on the site was a vehicle depot, there's no discernible increase, but as Louis said, would be controlled by sort of things like travel plan, delivery and servicing management plan and things like that. So there are conditions in place as well.
On page 51, you talk about sustainable drainage because of the flood. Where do we get that information on sustainable drainage? Is it going to be an ongoing one? You're going to be assessing them according to the year, because flood can be funny sometimes. So what is the preparation for that?
I think
one
to do sustainable drainage, yeah.
Yes.
So any application of this that it's going to use sustainable urban drainage systems. Point of that is that obviously with a large site like this, you want to make sure that water isn't running off just onto roads or things like that, because obviously it adds more and more kind of water to into the drainage. So sustainable urban drainage is around things like introducing green roofs, biodiversity, so that water can run off into hedgerows, for example. So they've got large hedgerows around the site, which helps with the water runoff and soakage. terms of monitoring that, so the local Leeds Flood Authority, which is actually somebody in the council, has already assessed the original submission, which will include the data, plans of where they're going to put it, and is considered acceptable. However, notwithstanding that, there is a few more steps they have to go through. So when they start building it, they have to send us, as they're building it, what they're building on site. He or they or whoever it is at the time will have to monitor that and make sure that that is still going to meet all the different flood requirements. And that is assessed by that individual against kind of the most up-to-date kind of flooding metrics on things like, 1 to 100-year flooding and things that the Environment Agency release kind of every couple of years, updated modelling. So yes, it will be monitored from now all the way through until when it's complete. And I think there is which they have to kind of show that it is meeting what they said it would meet. So that's things like flow rates and things to make sure it soak away the water fast enough if there was a big rainfall. So that is monitored quite heavily through the kind of construction and finish stage.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Brown. I just had two more about quality, and we said there's a condition that it's going to be high quality material. Is that broad, or can we be specific there? What exactly is high quality? Do we have like a rating?
So it was consulted with L&B Design and they sort of said they had no objection to it based on the materials being of high quality in terms of the glazing and facade, arc cladding, things like that, timber cladding to sort of provide a more varied built form in terms of that main South Crescent frontage. So it was sort of our assessment concluded that the materials would be of high quality, and then subsequently we'll condition that, and further detail would be provided as part of the condition in the consent.
And there's a question about timber. I know a lot of buildings in Newham do tend to be wood fronted. There might be timber, and they tend to run and they age quite severely, especially during this climate. Is that a concern for us, industrial site, or do we just?
So again, so during the assessment, the applicant actually reduced the amount of timber in our request upon our design team's request, so it actually has reduced. Again, a condition's there to ensure it is high quality timber to get an understanding of how it would sort of age, I suppose. But as well, the applicant also provided sort of evidence of other sites where they use timber in a similar approach. So sort of those case study examples also helped our assessment to demonstrate that it would be in this circumstance. And again, being an industrial area just provides a bit more variation to the fenestration and the facade to create some interest on what's usually sort of just a warehouse building.
Well, thank you. You'd be pleased to know this is my final question. Cycle spaces, 8 doesn't seem that many, especially if we want it. They're contributing to a £25,000 towards a cycle scheme. It's quite a big area. I'm sure we can get more spaces out of it than 8. Is there any chance we can get an increase of that?
That's in accordance with the London plan, and again was reviewed by TfL and our transportation team. They were satisfied with that. They also
that we can push back and anyway we can push back and get.
I mean it does meet the policy requirements. So
we can ask the applicant, not here, are they?
Then there might be online the agent. Chris Malone.
I don't know. We can always ask them if they are
online,
but if not, we can always take that away and try and discuss that as part of if you kind of delegate that to us, we can have a look, and if we can, we'll try and secure.
I'm happy to delegate that to you just to get more cycle space out of it. It's a huge site, and I think they can probably offer up more than 8.
Yes, thanks.
Any further questions from members? Okay, we move now to recommendations. Local Development Committee is asked to, I won't read everything there. 1, 2. We can all view that. Are we happy to vote on those recommendations? Show of hands, please. Vote. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's passed.
Just a comment to the applicant.
Yes.
The applicant is online.
Yeah.
Right.
The agent might be online.
I'm not going to read, but on page 77 and 78, right? It's very good news that employment coming. This is fun.
No, go ahead.
Requesting that the benefit should be Newham residents, especially the youngsters. and they look for. So this is the local development. Environmental residents.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for your comment. I hope that's noted online and in our minutes. That was approved for the show of hands, and that's agreed. So let's move now to item.
Do you mind if I give a copy of item 9
Yeah.
to the agents, so they have ability to read it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. 846 Clover Road. I'll let Louis and
Thank you.
First, and then we'll start.
I will need to go back at the end of this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, please begin.
Thank you. I'm presenting item 8 this evening, which is relating to 46 Clover Road. Sorry. Site is situated between Maryland and Forest Gate stations in Forest Gate. It is around 400 meters west of the Forest Gate district center, which is a town center. That's the local plan. Clover Road and the surrounding streets are predominantly residential in its character and use. These photos shows the front elevation. This photo shows the front elevation from Clover Road. It's an existing 2-story building with a basement around the 1920s. The site was previously used by the council as also by the Children and Young People Service as a center.
I went slow today, but
yeah. Okay. Sorry,
It's updated. That's not updated, no.
Yeah. Okay.
What's happening on your screen, Jay? Sorry, this is a lag on our.
Lag on the screen.
I was moving. Yeah. I think it's just that one.
Take it slowly.
Yeah. Okay, now it's showing. This photo shows the front of the site facing Clover Road. The next one will show the existing bay window and the fire escape landing on the west elevation. The next one will show the existing patio and the garden at the rear. The proposal is for the change of use of the existing vacant property from office use to supported living accommodation. The applicant, which is the council, aims to provide 8 accommodation units for single young adults aged 18 to 25, including caregivers. The proposal is part of the council's effort to reduce homelessness and create a provision suited to the needs of homeless young people to reduce the council reliance on temporary accommodation. The proposal would mainly involve internal alteration works. External works proposed within the application would only include the provision of a new fire escape. Windows and doors and other external materials would be upgraded to match the existing appearance. The proposal will also upgrade the existing refuse and cycle stores in the front, as well as some landscaping upgrading works in the forecourt and in the rear garden. This drawing shows the proposed elevations. As I said, the changes are mainly to facilitate the fire escape due to the changes in the internal layout. This plan shows the proposed ground floor layout with the entry ramps, disabled parking bay, and cycleway storage, as well as amenity space at the rear. Entrance to the building would be at ground floor, where the staff reception room and the communal kitchen dining area will be located. 3 single bedrooms will be provided on this ground floor. This shows the basement floor. The basement floor would accommodate a meeting room, activity room, staff room, utility room, and a plant room. This shows a first floor plan, which will accommodate 5 extra bedrooms and also an office and visitor bathroom. In terms of the principle of development, regarding the loss of the existing use, the local plan policy actually supports the consolidation of existing commercial uses into defined town centers. The site is located outside of the town center. Therefore, the loss of existing commercial use in the currently vacant property is not considered unacceptable. The proposed supporting accommodation use would support the strategic objectives of the local plan policy, considering the local and strategic needs, including especially for the vulnerable individuals. The site is located close to the Forest Gate District Center. While it's not exactly a key movement corridor, it's only 2 streets away from Romford Road. The principle of the proposed change of use is therefore supported. In terms of quality of accommodation, the proposal will have 8 rooms and all of them will be single occupancy. And each of them will have their own bathrooms and also have space for wardrobe, desk, and mini fridge. Officers are satisfied with the proposed internal space that will provide the future residents with a sufficient space. A shared kitchen and dining area and an activity room will be also provided for the residents. A rear patio will be transformed into an outdoor amenity space for residents to grow vegetables and to relax. Draft management plan has been submitted. The council's children's commissioning team will manage the contracts between the council and the service provider and undertakes service monitoring. There will be at least 2 staff members on the site at all times. Overall, with the comments of the council's children's commissioning team, it is considered to have appropriate standard of accommodation for its future residents. In terms of design, the proposed external works are considered to be proportionate to the existing building and have insignificant impacts to the area. As detailed in the committee report, the proposal is considered to be an appropriate design and finish, and therefore is supported subject to conditions. In terms of neighboring amenity, consultations were undertaken and no neighbor objections were received during the lifetime of the application. No unacceptable harmful impact is expected to the natural daylight, sunlight, outlook, overlooking or privacy to the nearby residents. The submitted draft management plan and the local area risk assessments also show that all support workers will oversee the direct care and supervision of the residents. Any antisocial behavior from the residents would be managed through established process as set out in the management plan. Therefore, all potential neighbor anonymity impacts will be suitably mitigated, and the proposal is considered acceptable in this regard. In relation to all other matters of consideration, these are considered to have satisfactorily addressed and detailed in the committee report. As outlined within the report, members are therefore asked to resolve to agree the reasons of approvals set out in the report and grant the permission based on the conditions listed in Appendix 10. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. You mentioned that there will be 1 wheelchair accessible room. Is that in the ground floor?
Yes.
There is no lift, obviously, in the.
Yeah. Also, ground floor. Yeah.
Second point number 1.45 on the landscaping, page number 88. Submitted documents do not provide sufficient information regarding the landscaping and boundary lines. That point has been considered by you and the committee in terms of taking.
So we have attached a condition to secure further details of the landscaping plan that they're going to do on the site, including the management of the landscaping area. in the future. So that is in the condition. So before they occupy the site, the future service provider or the council will have to submit more details on the landscaping details of the rear garden, especially.
Just to comment, Chair, is overall, means obviously we need housing and this is an amazing project. We support levels, especially those who are coming out of vulnerable levels. So I support that. Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you. With any further questions from members? Councillor.
Just a quick clarity around proposed 1.42 regarding the fire safety regulation. Shall we have a fire safety for building safety and fire safety? Because obviously, break space, there'll be a proposed development would be required to modify the existing external fire escape. But do we have any plans? Do we have a building safety? On that?
Not as part of the planning application, no. So only certain application types, like residential major applications, so 10 units require fire safety to be considered the stage. Because this is kind of a small scale application, there is no kind of planning regulation to that because it's not a new build. But this is obviously clearly, they've already started considering the building regulations of which they're going to have to get approval for. So because they're changing their use and making amendments, they have to go through building control to make sure that everything meets fire regulation and building control regulation. So I think we've just kind of explained that's why they're doing it in this. In reality, it's not actually a planning matter, and it'll be, but they will be required to make sure they meet all of that by building control officers before they sign off and allow it to be habitable for occupants.
Any further questions or comments on the scheme?
Yeah, it says that it was vacant for a few years. So for us, maybe for council to trade our buildings and to use them for some useful purposes. Yeah, like quite regularly.
Maybe that's something for us to note in our minutes, and then we take that back to anyone in the region or other council assets. Thank you very much. Can we move now to recommendations, which is the local development committee is asked to resolve: 1, agree the reasons for approval as set out in this report, and 2, grant planning permission based on the conditions listed in Appendix 10. All those who are in favour, show of hands. Thank you all very much. That is approved. Thank you. Now to item 9. Court, 1 Road, Manor Park.
Thank you, Chair. So item 9 of the local development committee agenda relates to an application for planning permission reference 25/00215/full at Cardamom Court 1, Grantham Road, Manor Park. Details of which can be found on pages 109 to 172 of the committee report. The application site known as Cardamom Court is approximately 3,700 square metres and currently exists of a Part 3 and Part 4-storey brick building featuring an extension link to a single-storey day centre. Currently 36 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedroom apartments exist on site, with all units being occupied as affordable rental housing for older persons. The site is located approximately 1 kilometre to the southwest of Ilford Town Centre. Romford Road is to the north of the site, which provides bus services to Stratford Town Centre to the southeast and Ilford Town Centre to the northeast. The existing day centre is adjacent to the extra care accommodation. Although owned by the applicant, it is run independently. Currently, it's utilised by Newham Council on a short-term contract. The facility for young people with disabilities. Photos show the existing day centre from Dersingham Avenue to the west and Mariner Road to the south, with the neighbouring 4-storey right. The day centre car park is accessed from Mariner Road to the south, seen in the image on the left. The extra care housing has its own car park, which is accessed via Grantham Road to the north. The image on the right shows the existing extra care housing from the Maria Square, the neighbouring development. Varied building heights and built form are in the surrounding context. To the north are a series of 12-storey residential towers east is Warrior Square, which includes a number of 3 to 4 story roof developments. 4-story unit blocks facing Cardamom Court are to the south. Dersingham Avenue to the west is occupied by a series of 2-story terraces. Again, this slide shows the neighbouring built form and the variation in heights in the surrounding context. The proposed development includes the demolition of existing day centre and the erection of a new 4-story extension to the south and west of the current building, providing 27 one-bed and 7 one-bed wheelchair accessible units, plus 3 refurbished units within the existing building. Extra care units are capable of occupation as self-contained flats. Elderly residents can choose how much they wish to use communal facilities. The basic concept is to maximise independent living. Extra care housing is therefore different to residential care, however, still offers on-site facilities such as office and staff rooms, care and treatment rooms, and communal lounges. 100% of units are to be provided as affordable social rental housing and will be available exclusively to those over the age of 55. All units will be managed by the applicant as an approved registered provider. At ground floor, a number of communal areas are proposed, including lounge and dining area adjacent to the main entrance. A kitchen area is also provided, which serves daily meals to residents. It is noted that dining area is for residents and their guests only and will not operate in commercial capacity to members of the public. The first, second, and third floor levels contain approximately 9 one-bedroom units on each level, and the roof plan includes a green roof and PV panels. The car park will be reduced to 5 spaces with 1 accessible space. The above images show the proposal from Mariner Road looking north on Dersingham Avenue. It demonstrates proposed development within the neighbouring context, showing the semi-projecting balconies and varied materiality, as well as the proposed landscaping. The above photo montage shows the proposed and existing development from the corner of Grantham Road and Dersingham Avenue looking south. The principle of development. The existing day centre is not within a designated town or local centre where policy directs these community uses to be located. The housing need for older people is established by the Greater London Authority, with a benchmark to deliver 1,445 units for older people until 2038 in Newham. Further to this, the Newham Strategic Housing Market Assessment identifies additional need for 712 owned and rented extra care units between 2021 and 2038. Council's Adult Social Care and Health Commissioning team has outlined that there is currently a local need for extra care spaces, and we're working closely with Anchor as the applicant to deliver these. The release of the existing community facility is therefore supported by officers as it aligns with Council's strategic aims to deliver this type of specialist housing within the borough, specifically 100% affordable rental housing for older persons. The principle of development is therefore supported. All proposed new dwellings would benefit from private external amenity areas and exceed internal space standards. In terms of daylight, internal daylight and sunlight, while some shortfalls were identified for the proposed units, the orientation of the built form in which the majority of units face south allows for daylight and sunlight to reach key habitable rooms, being the living area and bedrooms, with most kitchens located closer to the entrances. It is officers' view that given the open living arrangement, it is expected that certain areas will receive lower levels of light, and the approach taken by the applicant to prioritise the living/dining areas is considered appropriate in this instance. This is complemented by the exceedance in the internal space standards for each self-contained dwelling by approximately 6 square metres, and the addition of balconies which would allow for further daylight and sunlight externally. The proposal includes 7 M43 accessible units, which equates to 21%, meeting the 10% requirement. Again, 100% of units are to be provided as affordable social rental housing and will be available exclusively to those over the age of 55. Initially, officers raised concern about the scale and bulk of the proposal. However, additional information was provided, which officers consider satisfactory to overcome these. The proposal would be 4 stories in height, which would align with the roof height of the existing development. The proposal would transition between the taller and larger buildings to the north, 12 stories, the 4-story built form to the east and south, and the 2-story terrace housing to its west, and is therefore appropriate considering the varied height and scales in the neighbouring context. The proposal would have sufficient setbacks from Dursingham Avenue, Mariner Road and Warrior Square, and the positioning of the proposed built form is consistent with the 4-story properties to the south fronting Mariner Road. The proposed setbacks will also be mitigated by significant landscaping, including retention of existing trees and proposed new trees. The fenestrations of the proposal are of high quality with the use of deep window reveals and varied brickwork, increasing the visual appearance of the proposed built form. In this regard, the scale, materiality and appearance of the proposed development is supported by officers. This photo montage shows the proposed entrance, which is legible and welcoming and connects the proposed development to the existing building. This would become the main entrance. The proposal includes an improvement to the landscape design of the existing site through the introduction of communal courtyard, roof terrace, as well as upgraded boundary treatments. The proposed landscaping will result in 1,560 square metres of communal amenity space for residents. This compares to the existing 1,259 square metres. Overall, the proposal would positively enhance the appearance of the site and improve accessibility with 2 new entry points on Dursingham Avenue and Warrior Square. The images above show the ground level landscaping improvements, including internal courtyard and the proposed 2nd-story roof terrace. The submitted daylight and sunlight assessment demonstrated some minor transgressions in relation to daylight to the neighbouring terraces on Dursingham Avenue. Further information was requested by officers during the assessment due to these minor transgressions. The applicant outlined that a retained VSC value of 20% would be appropriate for the suburban environment in which the site is located. In this regard, the total room values for all properties would exceed this requirement. Consideration is also given to the neighbouring rooms being part of a wider terrace house in which the windows are not the sole source of daylight. Officers are satisfied that these transgressions are considered minimal. In making this judgment, officers have taken into consideration the context of the development being comparable in height to the surrounding properties and the weight of other public benefits provided. In relation to sunlight, all rooms at all relevant properties would be fully compliant. No objections have been received from neighbouring occupiers along Dursingham Avenue and Warrior Square. The separation distance between the proposed development and neighbouring properties is approximately 18.5 metres to 22 metres, which is considered sufficient to mitigate privacy and overlooking impact. Sustainable transport. The proposal will result in the removal of the existing car park utilised by the day centre. LBN Transportation did not raise any concern in relation to impacts on the highways. A minimal increase of only 4 trips in the AM and PM is expected. The application site will continue to utilise existing car park with 5 off-street spaces and 1 disabled bay. The development will include the provision for up to 14 buggy and 6 cycle parking spaces, and parking permits will be restricted with a travel plan to be secured via Section 106 agreement to promote sustainable transportation. A deliveries and servicing management plan will be conditioned and public realm improvements will be secured via Section 278 agreement. The proposal is therefore supported in relation to sustainable transport. Management and operations. The applicant has confirmed that it is up to 12 staff members on site at its peak, which includes a housing support team, carers and catering staff. Anchor's housing team consists of a location manager and an assistant manager who will have additional hours to support the additional units. The new and commissioned care team on site will provide care as required in line with individual assessed care and support plans. A 24/7 telecare system is also provided. The submitted management plan is considered acceptable and will be secured by way of condition. Other considerations: waste management. 2 refuse stalls have been provided, one next to the proposed kitchen facilities. The second is for residential waste and is located adjacent to Warrior Square. Sustainable development. Energy saving measures would reduce carbon emissions by 89%. Biodiversity. B&G is achieved on site. Biodiversity net gain has been achieved on site. And in relation to no objection was received from the Environmental Agency, and a drainage strategy will be secured via a condition. In regards to employment, there's also a commitment to a contribution of 154,000 for local labour during construction. With respect to all other of the above matters, the proposed development is supported as detailed on pages 134 to 140 of the committee report. The Local Development Committee therefore asks the result to agree the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report and delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to the completion of the Section 106 based on the heads of terms at Appendix 11 and the conditions listed at Appendix 10. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And we have speakers. We have Matthew Wyatt and Nick Hodgkin, Head of Regeneration at Anchor. You would both have combined 5 minutes, so if you'd like to, at any time.
Good evening, Chair, members. I'm Nick Hodgkin. I'm Head of Regeneration at Anchor. Anchor is England's largest not-for-profit provider of housing and care for older people. We have a long-standing relationship with Newham, managing 6 separate locations here. As your own strategic housing market assessment outlines, there is an ongoing and increasing need for specialist extra care homes that this scheme will directly address. Anchor recognises the acute need for desirable, sustainable and older person's housing. We are committed to investing in our portfolio in your borough to provide more and better homes. Currently have a waiting list of over 280 applicants in this borough alone. You will be all too aware that finding new sites in London is incredibly difficult. To meet this urgent demand, we must make better, more efficient use of the land we already own. The proposal before you allows us to do exactly that. By replacing a day centre that is no longer functional, we deliver 34 additional extra care homes. Crucially, these are 100% affordable for social rent. This will provide stability, security and care for local older people. Independent research shows that the level of service provision in an Anchor extra care estate offers significant savings both to the local authority in the form of reduced care costs and the NHS by tackling malnutrition and physical inactivity, with potential savings for this proposal estimated to be nearly £500,000 per year. But this project isn't just about adding numbers, it's also about improving the quality of life for everyone at Cardiff. A new telecare system will be installed across the development and an additional lift will be added if the proposal is accepted. The scheme delivers a high quality landscape, a sensory garden and a new roof terrace, amenities that will be shared by new and existing residents, combating isolation and fostering a true community. We have worked extensively on this proposal with your housing and adult social care officers who fully support our proposal. This development represents a sustainable, deliverable solution to Newham's housing crisis, and we ask you to support your officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Very much.
I'll carry on straight away, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm Matthew Wyatt from PWA Planning, the agent for the application. I won't take up much of your time, but we really welcome the case officer's recommendation for approval. This application is the result of over a year of collaboration with Newham's officers to deliver a scheme that's viable, high quality, and crucially, both 100% affordable and meets the need for older people. As Mr. Hodgkin has just mentioned, we're optimising an existing brownfield site. This has required a balance between massing, amenity, and technical guidance. The architectural team have worked hard to present a scheme that achieves this and that will deliver a visual betterment for the existing area. We've worked very closely with officers to ensure that we get this balance right, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Arnott for his proactive input. the report, of course, notes that what we're providing is a very high standard of accommodation overall that is supported. In conclusion, the scheme does deliver its 34 new extra care homes, but it's an opportunity for Anchor to refurbish the existing building and deliver new facilities. There's a biodiversity net gain and an 89% reduction in carbon emissions across the site overall. But most of all, it's going to deliver that betterment to the lives of the existing occupants of Carbon Court and future occupants who are currently in urgent need. It's a robust, sustainable proposal, and we ask you to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll now move to member questions.
Thank you, Chair. Page number 130.1.16. Says restricted persons age 55 and above. The proposed development will also provide 100% on-site affordable housing for social work. Does that mean that below the age of 55 will be provided for social housing work?
No, it'll be for social rent for people that are aged 55 and above. So the restriction is that it's a social rent tenancy, but there's just an age.
It will be only 55.
55.
And the second questions to the officers, page number 144. Uncertainty, LBN design and conservation. So the objections raised to the form and matching and internal arrangements from the given conditions were recommended. However, objections for LBN design and conservation still remain with the scale common massing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, during as the agent has said, during the process, there was sort of lengthy consultation with the design team. And they did have some concerns with the scale and massing on site. There was further information submitted in terms of justification around the scale and massing, further landscape improvements, changes to sort of some of the fenestration, and overall officers considered that justification appropriate, whilst there was still sort of an objection from design. It's our duty as sort of the planning officer to consider all that consultation and weigh up the public benefits. And in this instance, we came to the recommendation that based on that further information provided by the applicant and agent, and the overall public benefit of 100% affordable housing for over 55, that despite an objection from the design team, those public benefits outweighed that.
In terms of that justification, was it the additional room space or
so the
affordable? Was that part of the justification? Or was...
So, I mean, the viability and the 100% affordable housing obviously plays a part in that, but there was also sort of further studies done in terms of the context of the site, how it relate to the surrounding built form, presented some of that justification, how the setbacks were appropriate, further improvements to landscape design, a demonstration that there'd be a net increase in actual usable landscape areas on the site, reduction in the car park to further increase landscaping. So we weighed that all up, and on balance, we've come to the planning decision that it's would be appropriate in this instance.
Okay. Members, any further questions?
Comment.
Comment.
I welcome the development. I welcome the development as it supports our elderly residents. So yeah, just wanted to add.
Okay, Councillor Kamali and then Councillor Visser first.
The eligibility criteria.
That would be probably a question for the applicant in terms of.
So the eligibility criteria, there's an age restriction in place for age over 55, and then there is usually either care or support requirement in order to move to an extra care development. So that could be anything from a physical care requirement or support relating to any sort of mental or
Councillor Kamali.
Just for clarity around this proposal, has this been independently reviewed? Because obviously the proposal is for extra care housing, it's not a care home, and I believe Anchor is not for profit. So in that, to assess how much of it will be genuinely affordable, did we have like an independent review, or was it just between Newham.
But it's 100%. So in this instance, that wasn't considered necessary because it's tied to a commitment in the Section 106 agreement to be 100%. So
effectively, viability assessments are used in order to make sure that we're definitely meeting that we can't achieve the policy requirement of 50% affordable in any scheme. When the scheme comes through as 100% affordable, we're therefore already surpassing our policy objective, and therefore we don't require scrutiny through a full financial viability assessment because the agreement is it will be 100% affordable. That's tied into the legal agreement. That's what the use is tied to. They can't deviate away from that.
So there's no chances further down the line that we'll be open to scrutiny on this particular issue?
No, because the final viability assessments are only used just to make sure that we're definitely not having the wool pulled over our eyes and that there definitely is the most amount of affordable housing being provided. Because it's 100%, there's no need to really do that in this instance. And in order to expedite these kind of negotiations with a lot of different kind of council tenants, and as you were saying before about these not-for-profit organisations, we take the pragmatic view that if it's 100% and we tie that legally, then we don't need to be doing any further viability scrutiny on that.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of our affordability policy, is that 35% normally, or is that for sort of developments, would that be 35% of rooms? They've achieved 100%, but
it's 35 to 50% depending on the tenure. I can't remember exactly on this one, but yes, it's far exceeding our usual requirements.
Okay.
Members, any further questions? So we shall move now to recommendations. So much. The Local Development Committee is asked to resolve: 1, agree reasons for approval as set out in the committee report, and 2, the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to completion of a legal agreement under Section 106 of the Town 20 as amended. Heads of terms at 11, the committee report and conditions listed in Appendix 10 of the committee report. Do we agree?
Agree.
Please, and that is unanimous. Approved. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now to item 10. The Greenleaf Hotel at 361 to 366 Romford Road. Again.
I think this is the last item on the agenda. The Greenleaf Hotel on Romford Road. The application site is located on the north side of the Romford Road. It's comprised of linked detached Victorian villas currently used as a hotel. The site is locally and falls within the Woodgrange Estate area. The site is sandwiched between 2 other hotels. To the east of the site is the Hartley Hotel. An expansions plan for the Hartley Hotel have been approved under several planning applications, including the most recent application approved in February 2025. The existing Greenleaf Hotel has previously been extended in the rear, and to the rear of the building there is a large expanse of hard standing used for vehicular parking at the moment. This photo shows the front elevation from Romford Road. This shows the side entrance from Richmond Road. The current application seeks full planning permission to expand and remodel the existing 2-story hotel. This would involve internal and external alteration works and the construction of rear extensions. As a result of the proposed work, the hotel would increase its number of bedrooms from 43 to 65, adding 22 more rooms. As part of the proposals, a new central courtyard will be created, in addition to other landscaping works in the front area. This drawing shows the proposed main elevation facing Romford Road. And this shows the proposed elevations of the north wing and the boundary wall surface area from Richmond Road. This shows the proposed landscape works, right? And this shows the ground floor layout. It's a first story, and then there's a loft level, second level. In terms of principle of development, the lawful use of the site is a hotel, and the current proposal is just to expand the hotel. Although the site is not located in the town center location, where hotel and other commercial uses are usually directed, the applicant has demonstrated through a sequential test approach that the proposed expansion of this out-of-center hotel location is acceptable in principle. And so therefore, the principal development is therefore considered acceptable. Quality of visitor accommodation. Throughout the course of the application, the layout has been revised in response to officers' comments on the quality of visitors' accommodation. Now the proposal would overall provide 65 rooms, overall delivering 22 new additional rooms in the proposed extension, in addition to the proposed reconfiguration of the rooms in the existing buildings. 45 of these rooms will be double room, and 4 of these rooms will be triple rooms. In terms of accessibility, 6 proposed wheelchair accessible rooms would meet the requirements set under the London Plan, which states 10% of the new rooms should be accessible. Noting there is no minimum room standards for this type of accommodation. Officers consider layouts of the proposed room to be acceptable, particularly noting the transient nature of the persons who use this room or anticipated short stays. The plan also shows that the indicative arrangement of the furniture and the bathroom showing the rooms could be practically used by the visitors. So therefore, the officers consider the quality of accommodation overall would be considered acceptable. In terms of design, the proposed application proposed significant improvement works at the site as a local listed building. The main design changes or upgrades would be the landscaping proposing in the frontage of Rumford Road, in addition to some minor design details on the facade of the site, including the alterations to the main entrance. The proposed external alteration works are considered very acceptable from the design heritage perspective, and our conservation and design officer have been consulted and are supportive of the application. In terms of impacts to the neighboring amenity, the separation distances between the proposed northern wing of the hotel and the dwelling houses to the north of the site is considered sufficient to ensure there will be no unacceptable or harmful impact to the neighboring amenity. Noting that the site access open onto Rumford Road, it is not anticipated that the intensification in occupancy level of this hotel would result in any likely harmful impacts of noise and disturbance upon surrounding residential properties. Subject to the imposition of an adherence to the recommended conditions, officers are satisfied that there will be no harm to a neighboring amenity. In terms of transport, the site has very good access to public transport service along the Rumford Road, as well as being about 700 meters away from the Forest Gate station. The proposed development would propose to remove all the car parking spaces at the rear currently, but retain 2 disabled parking spaces within the front. The council's transportation officers recommend the restriction of parking permits to prevent staff and management obtaining parking permits. This will be secured by Section 106 agreement. Also, a condition will be imposed to restrict the parking use at the rear area, which is now proposed to be used as a service area only. The proposed number of cycling spaces of 8 would meet the London Plan requirements and would be located at the front, accessible through Rumford Road. In this regard, in line with the transportation officer's comments, the proposal is supported subject to the conditions and Section 106 obligations. With respect to all other remaining matters of the proposal is supported subject to conditions and Section 106 obligations detailed in the committee report. Members are asked to resolve to agree to the reasons of approval. Also, the delegated authority to the Director of Planning to grant permission subject to the completion of legal agreement under Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act, and also the heads of term identified at the appendix of the report and the conditions. Thank you.
Much. And do we still have Nigel online?
Yes, Chair, sorry.
Would you like to present, Nigel? Anything to say to committee?
Well, I did have a short presentation, but I think the planning officer has covered most of it. I would just say, sorry, first of all, I'm Nigel Young. I'm from Studio Y2 and we are the agents for the application. The only thing I would add to the officer's presentation was just that we were grateful to the officers for their support and also for the two helpful pre-application meetings that were held to discuss the preliminary design options. During the process, the height of the proposed rear extension was reduced and it was moved further away from the rear boundary of the site so that it would have less impact on neighbouring properties on Windsor Road. We also agreed to the retention of the healthy trees and to maintain a good level of screening at the rear, and as the officer said, removal of the parking. Following those changes, the planning application was submitted, and as the officer said, there haven't been any objections from residents to those proposals. I think we are planning to do a significant amount of work to the front of the property to make it more appropriate to the conservation area, including increasing the size of the brick wall in terms of its length, improving the railings and also the historic canopies, which will be similar to the historic canopies in adjacent buildings. We've kept the rear extension to 1 to 2 stories, with the first floor contained within the roof space to again minimize the impact of the development, and again to keep the front. We've introduced landscaping to the front of the property, which because we're able to do that because the servicing and bins and so on will be at the rear, and there will be provision for 2 disabled parking spaces, which will obviously provide service for the proposed 6 wheelchair accessible rooms, and we've also included for 4 auditory and visually accessible rooms. So overall, we consider that the development is a sustainable development with improvements to the appearance of this locally listed building within the conservation area. We think it will support the growth of a local business and bring economic benefits to the Forest Gate town centre. So we would request that members support the officer's recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Within time, and just in your point rather about maintaining the quality, the shape within the conservation area. Will any of the new works that you're planning to do in the back garden, will that affect any of the neighbouring buildings at all in terms of foundation or disturbance?
No, I mean the new the rear extension is some distance away from properties. We also looked at the existing trees and retaining those, and there's an arboricultural statement as part of the application which looks at how the protection of those trees would be managed through construction and then through the lifetime of the building beyond that. So in terms of the rear, there wouldn't be any, and in terms of the front, it fronts onto Romford Road, so there shouldn't be any impact on buildings beyond that. The police station being, well, the old police station building being opposite.
Great, thanks. And this is a question to officers. How do we judge the quality of visitor accommodation in policy terms, and in real terms, what would that be?
Because there's no set standard in the local plan policy or the London plan for visitor accommodations. So there isn't really anything to assess, a hard standard to assess against. So during the course of the application, some of the rooms we spotted they were a bit small and without the ensuite. So we did ask the applicant to provide a bit more proportion of ensuite rooms in the hotel, and that has been addressed. Also, this is very similar to another application or proposed development that we approved recently, which is the next door Hartley Hotel. The room sizes are particularly more or less identical. So, yeah.
It's more about size of the room and facilities inside it. Okay. Councillor Falola.
Just follow up to Councillor James' question. You haven't heard you address the health and safety in the building. Like, are you going to provide? I mean, obviously, you're going to have more people coming to the building. It's going to be bigger. What about fire and safety? Any health and safety issue that you've considered that is needed now to be improved with this new building?
Yeah, in terms of fire safety, I believe that is also, again, is building control matters, which is not something that we can consider in the planning application terms. In terms of other safety or other health and safety issues, maybe in relation to the plan applications, there are some requirements on accessibility. The wheelchair rooms that we talked about, those have to be on ground floor, obviously, and then it does have to appear that it will work because the building doesn't have lift. On the others terms, in terms of nuisance and disturbance, that will be controlled by, when it's being built out, that is going to be controlled by a construction demolition management plan. But in terms of the operation of the hotel, as far as we're concerned, in terms of time, there's little that we can control about.
Yeah, just to clarify, the fire safety again, it'll be, you know, any new development will have to go through building control regulations, and the building control officers, you know, will have to review that against fire safety as part of building regulations. In terms of safety of occupants, it's an existing kind of hotel that obviously will have like a manned reception, but it kind of works and functions as every other hotel. The expansion of it isn't kind of expected to introduce kind of like additional vulnerable people or something to a certain extent that would require us to kind of look any further in detail at security. It's, you know, it's been there a long time. There is an expansion of, you know, roughly 30% or so, but we don't think it materially changed the nature to a way that we'd need to visit how they kind of manage the day-to-day on the site, which is, you know, we're kind of just more managing the traffic and things, but not necessarily their operations, given that it's been, you know, a long-serving use in the borough.
Any further questions, Councillor Falola? More questions from members? Okay, we shall move to the vote. The local development committee is asked: 1, agree the reasons for approval as set out in the report. 2, delegate authority planning and development to granting, can't see the subject to the completion of a agreement under section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 as amended based on the heads of terms identified on Appendix 10 of the committee report and conditions listed on Appendix 9 of the committee report. All those in favour, show of hands. And that looks like it's carried. That's approved. Thank you very much, Nigel, for your presentation, and thank you very much to officers.
Thank you.
And that's the final item. We do have an AOB. I'd like to give thanks to Jane Constance, Director of Planning, who is leaving, unfortunately, at the end of this week. So if we can note our thanks to her and her work in Newham over the time that she's been here. And I think a quick round of applause. We've not online. The date of the next meeting has not been set, but thank you all very much and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.